Good evening, everyone. Welcome, Marvin. I'd like to call the regular council meeting to order for Wednesday, November 15th, 2023. The town of Comox respectfully acknowledges that we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nation people, traditional keepers of this land. If I can get an adoption of the agenda for November 15th, and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes. Thank you. So we have no delegations this evening. For regular council meeting minutes, we have the meeting minutes from November 1st, 2023 to be adopted. I can get a motion and a seconder. Please use your mics for those online. Thank you. So we have a mover and a seconder. Thank you very much. All those in favor? And opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. So we have our Strategic Planning Committee meeting minutes from November 18th, 2023 to be received. If I can get a motion and a seconder.
Moved. Second.
Moved.
Moved. Move receipt.
Second.
Sorry, I haven't been using my mic there online. Apologies. It's karma for we all need to use our mics. It's been a while since we've had people on Zoom, so I'm getting used to it again. We have bylaw adoptions. We have Comox Water Rates and Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 529.34, that Comox Water Rates and Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 529.34 be adopted.
Move. Second.
And any questions or comments on the amendment bylaw for our water rates? All those in favor? Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. We have on page 50, Comox Sanitary Sewer and Water Parcel Tax Bylaw number 2029, that Comox Sanitary Sewer and Water Parcel Tax Bylaw number 2029 be adopted. If I can get a motion.
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Grant, seconded by Councillor Haslett. Any questions on that? And all those in favor of Water Parcel Tax Bylaw number 2029? Opposed? Any opposed? And that passes. Councillor Blacklock, was that opposed? No, in favor. Thank you. That passes unanimously. We have the Comox Sewer User Rates Bylaw number 2030, that Comox Sewer User Rate Bylaw number 2030 be adopted.
Second.
That's moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the Sewer User Rates Bylaw? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. On to new business. Just one moment here. My computer closed the page. Just give me one second here. So we have the introductory report on page 54 for the official community plan amendment RZ OCP 23-4 for 1963 Guthrie Road, Comox. That number one, that in accordance with section 475 of the Local Government Act, that we have a notice of proposed official community plan amendment as contained in attachment 1 to the November 15th, 2023 planning report on RZ OCP 23-4 be posted on town's bulletin board and website until replaced by a notice of public hearing. And B, the November 15th, 2023 planning report on RZ OCP 23-4 and subsequent planning reports be posted on the town website. And number two, that when a public hearing is scheduled for the proposed development application, RZ OCP 23-4, an option for online participation is added. So we'll look at those two separately. And this is, sorry, I'm just going to preface that this is a commercial on bottom, residential on top, 205 rental condo unit proposal on the vacant lot at 1966 Guthrie. And Councillor Grant, if you just use your mic also.
I'll move that. Second.
Okay, that's moved by Councillor Grant and seconded by Councillor Hazlitt. So comments or feedback from councillors on this? And just a question over to staff if possible while we're on this. So in this proposal, they have asked for a reduction in DCCs and asked for a waiver of the affordable amenity contribution. I'm just wondering if there's any concern, myself, other councillors, I'm not sure, any concern on kind of what that request is if the timing would be now that we flag that would be a concern, or if it goes out to the public and that's done, where is the recommended best timing for us to flag that? Possibly.
Thank you. A discussion right now on the project I think is okay, but really what's put in front of council is just to put your mind to who you're going to consult through the OCP consultation process, and taking a look at the project as you move through will come at a later phase. So you don't need to get into the specifics on the development proposal right now.
Okay, so at this stage, we're basically forwarding it through, which is a legislative right for them to have their public consult to move forward. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Councillor Mayor online.
Thank you. I'm just curious, in kind of response to what CAO Wall just said, I just want to pick up on the concerns about the adjacency to the farmland, and how best to address the concerns that have come through, I think, really strongly about a number of aspects of the project and its current form and the impact on the neighboring farms. So how might we best address those concerns through this process, I guess, is my question.
Over to CAO Wall for comment on that question.
So right now, what you're being asked to do is to put your mind to who you would like to see consulted specifically in this process, and you'll receive the application with the specifics in it of a later date. So taking a look at the sort of OCP referral process, you can ensure that the people that you want to have the ability to comment on it are flagged to have this referred to them. And I believe that with the radius in the area for this project, that the farm adjacent will be notified of this project, and they're already aware.
Right. Would the Food Policy Council then be an additional sorry, my brain with having COVID is not functioning super well, but would the Food Policy Council be somebody to add to that list?
If council wishes to have them consulted during this process, it would be someone to add to the list, yes.
Does that work for you, Councillor Mayor? As
think
far as an
so.
answer, or
So I would have to put forward a motion to add the Food Policy Council to the list, or we just need to ask that they be added to the list?
You would need to put forward a motion, Councillor Mayor.
And would there be anyone at the province who might be worth consulting just with this issue of infringement on ALR land? And again, I'm just looking for different ways to best manage the issues and thinking about who might be good to bring into the process. Some of why I'm asking is because it's like I don't necessarily know who the best folks are.
yeah, just checking, is that to myself, Councillor Mayor, or over to CAO Wall as far as kind of the best referral folks? Because there was the list that's there, but there's obviously these additional possible ones you would want to motion.
I'm happy to receive input and feedback from anyone who has it.
Yeah, I think at this point, we have the list that's there, and it would come from a motion of council if there's any kind of additional points. That being said, any councillors can kind of speak to the different groups in the consultation process, but if it's going to be a formal referral from council, it would come in as a motion. I'll come back to you in just a moment if that's okay. We'll go over to Councillor Grant.
Thanks. Well, I'm not 100% sure what the Food Policy Council would have to do with this. I mean, we're not messing with the farmland so much. The one concern that I think is maybe something that needs to be looked at is the water, if we're going to be messing with the wells around there. I don't think we would, but that might be something that we want to look at, and I'm sure it'll get looked at through staff as we go through the report, but we're not going to be messing with any food production with this, so I'm not sure what the Food Policy Council would actually bring to this.
May
Is
I
there any
respond?
Yes, Councillor Mayor, and then I'll follow up. Thank you. Councillor Mayor online.
Sure, thank you. Just in one of the notices that was provided, some of the feedback that was provided, there was an impact to some cows actually and their ability to be milked due to some of the sound of some neighbors in the region. So I do think that that's part of the concern, is that the way that we're building next to farms might have undue impacts to some of our food security. So that's how I would see the Food Policy Council as being potentially a valuable kind of resource to weigh in on it. That's my line of thought.
As a follow-up, do you want to make a motion on that, or just a kind of make it as a note that's been discussed this evening?
Sure. Why not make a motion to add the Food Policy Council to the list?
Okay, and a seconder.
I'll second that.
Okay, Councillor Grant is seconded, so that's on the table. Any questions, comments? All those in favor of adding the Food Policy Group to the list of referral agencies this evening? And opposed? Okay, I'm just going to do that again. So adding the Food Policy Group to the list of referrals, those in favor? Opposed? And that passes as an addition to add to the group. So over to staff, is that adequate as far as adding that to the thing? Okay, thank you, Councillor Mayor, for that. Any other questions? We're on 1A and B again, that this go forward to a notice of OCP amendment and be posted. Oh, Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for raising the issue about the. I guess I'm just assuming the lack of the affordable housing contribution policy or contribution in the application, and it might be just be an oversight. So I would hope I don't think we want to, be waiving DCCs or affordable housing contribution policy amounts, set a precedence for that, especially with all the development that's coming in. That would. I'm not even sure the legality of waiving DCCs. I think that's something mandated by the province. So maybe if some way that could be signaled back to the developer that would be those would be kind of expected as part of the application. That'd be great. I don't know, CAO Wall, if that's reasonable or if that's just part of the process that planning will have, that discussion with the developer.
Yeah, just as a follow-up, I was going to ask kind of the same similar question. Is it something they indicated they expected to possibly be waived, or is it possible that this might just be an oversight?
So I don't believe it's an oversight. The request was to see a reduction in the DCCs and not to pay the affordable housing contributions. Now, Council, you have already signaled to the development community that these are required for an application. You have it in policy and you have it in your DCCs. So when staff are meeting with the developers, this is what we are telling them is required to move a project forward. Developers do, though, have the right to have their application heard by council, and whether or not those provisions stay in with reduced DCCs and reduced affordable housing contributions when it comes to you in the future, I can't say right now, but the discussions we have with the development community begin with showing them the requirements to move a project forward in Comox, which includes the payment of the DCCs and includes the payment of your affordable housing contribution policy.
Thank you for that, Councillor Grant.
Yeah, I read that and I had some thoughts about that too. And I guess to me, I'd like to know what their rationale is for asking. If it's just because we don't want to pay, that's one thing. But if it's, maybe there's a rationale there that I didn't read the report anyway, so I don't know. But certainly something we should address. I don't think that, I mean, you can love or hate those policies, but the reality is if you start now saying, oh, we'll let you off, the next guy's going to come and ask for the same thing. So unless they've got a really good rationale, I think that, we should at least sit down and talk to them and find out what it is that's got them thinking that might be a good idea.
Thanks for that comment, Councillor Grant. So over to CAO Wall. At this point, based on, again, their right to have this go through for community comment, we wouldn't be looking at rejecting it, but is it possible to flag without a motion that staff go back and just have that conversation offline and just find out what the rationale is, just so we kind of ask now and not later down the process in 4 or 5 months, but kind of get some answers earlier?
Yeah, thank you. Staff will do that, not sort of based on the conversation around the table, but again, based on the policies that council has in place. And so we'll have those discussions. If there's a proposal that comes through at rezoning that seeks to provide a type of amenity that would offset the requirement for the payment of a DCC or an affordable housing contribution, that would be highlighted to you in the report that comes to you, probably when you receive that completed application report. So there is the potential that that's there. But again, the beginning conversation is sharing with the developers, here's what is required to submit here's what is required to move a project forward in the town of Comox, and they may come to council and request for one reason or another that they be waived, or they may try and negotiate a different set of amenities based on site specific. So I think you're well covered in ensuring that staff have those conversations and the developers understand that this is that these are required to move projects forward in the town, though they may again bring it to council and ask for a waiver of those fees.
Thank you. So it sounds like all the details of, parking and EV conduits and all those things will come possibly later on, but we've kind of commented on some of those concerns in the application. So we'll look at 1A and B was moved and seconded. Part 2 we'll do separately, but any further comments before we vote on 1A and 1B? Okay, all those in favor of 1A, 1B? And any opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. So the
I'll
second,
move to, sorry.
that's okay. Nope. So the second part, that when a public hearing is scheduled for the proposed development application, an option for online participation is added. Councillor Grant has moved.
Second.
That passes unanimously. Apologies. I will leave the mic on. Okay, so moving on, that was 1966 Guthrie. We are on rezoning application RZ 23-3, development permit application DP 23-6 for 215 Port Augusta Street. I'm just going to read this out so everyone has it in front of them. It's on page 150 of the package. That once the town of Comox has received an updated application package which addresses BC Transit concerns and development permit area number 1 compliance as outlined in the October 18th, 2023 staff report on RZ 23-3 215 Port Augusta. Rezoning and phase development agreement bylaws be submitted for council consideration, which exclude the permanent and temporary plaza spaces as outlined in the October 18th staff report, but includes as amenities the 4-meter wide dedication strip along the frontage of the proposed building and a $200,000 amenity contribution towards a downtown vitality project. There is a staff recommendation as well as 2 alternatives listed there. Councillor Grant.
I was going to move the recommendation.
So moved the
Second.
Kerr.
mine turns off. Okay, so the recommendation on page 150 from the CAO has been moved and seconded. So for discussion. Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, I support this, and I just want to thank Mr. Kuhn and his team for, having the creativity and flexibility to come back with us to us with another option. I think, many of us in this room would have preferred to have a dedicated, space, but given that was, not the desire, I think that this amenity contribution towards another downtown project, perhaps another central space that we can look at in the future is a great second option. So I'll be supporting this, and after we vote on this, I have one other issue related to this project I'd like to discuss. Thanks.
Okay, but the issue is not concerning the vote at hand, just to confirm. Okay. Other comments and feedback? I will not be voting in favor. I think that with the massing of 75 feet right on the 4 meters from the sidewalk is just too high for the fit and form. And if there was kind of that 4-meter buffer for the plaza, it possibly could look different, but something for me just requires more adjustment between the plaza or the height and doing a tiered approach. So I'll be voting against. Any other? Oh, Councillor Blacklock online.
Remember too that we have an opportunity here as part of the downtown enhancement strategy. Those of you who attended last week might remember that one of the big ideas that came out of that session was the possibility of creating a bollard enhanced pedestrian zone along that area of Comox Avenue. It's something we've talked about in the past. How we close the street for certain events throughout the year. And that was something that I think could function as a town plaza, as a square for us for occasions when we need it. So for me, I think the $200,000 would go a long way towards the downtown enhancement strategy. And I think we can find a project that's going to work with this building. And I'm hopeful that we can either move towards a pedestrian zone within that block or consider asking for or purchasing a piece of a different corner property downtown for a town square. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Councillor Blacklock. We have Councillor Mayer online.
Thank you. I'm willing to support this, but it's I do feel quite conflicted about it, I will say, and it is for me mostly about the massing, and just really concerned about how the height in its current form will impact the feel of the downtown community, and there's a lot going for it, a lot that is super positive, which is why I will vote for it tonight. But it's not without some misgivings. So I think that's all I'll say for now. Thanks.
We have Councillor Kerr and then Councillor Grant.
Yeah, so I was going to bring up a motion after this discussion, but since I guess the issues are being tied together, I'll do it now as an amendment. But first, I just want to say that, you know, the tricky part about this is that we have a really great project that's being planned for downtown, and there is some opposition to how that will change the feel of downtown by the community. And yes, some of it's probably NIMBYism, you know, but a lot of it isn't. A lot of it's people that don't live downtown, don't live near the downtown core, but really the feel of their downtown will be impacted by this. And you know, I was reading through the letters. It's not the 6 stories. The 6 stories itself isn't what's bothering people. It's the 6 stories is going to change how it feels to walk or drive or bike downtown. So you know, I'm really supportive of this project overall. I love the housing and density downtown. I love the support of the downtown businesses. And again, I really appreciate Mr. Kuhn and his flexibility with the amenity contribution. But the change of the character and feel of the downtown is too much. And I don't want us to get to first and second reading or even later, and then have this discussion and put them back further. So my proposed amendment to this motion would be that when a rezoning bylaw for consideration of first reading is introduced for council consideration, it include the requirement of terracing of building mass above the 2nd story to reduce its prominence over the streetscape. And if this is seconded, I'm happy to talk more about what that means.
We do have a motion on the table now, so it would have to be defeated or be a friendly, but I think that's too
It's a proposed amendment.
Okay, proposed amendment. And does that work for staff? Is it proposed? Okay, so proposed amendment, I will second that.
Okay, so
So
basically
continue.
what this means in English is you know, what people really struggle with is, and we stood there during the walk with the Downtown Business Association, you know, you're looking up at 5 or 6 stories straight above you, right from, you know, arguably the most important, most recognizable corner in Comox. And so that massing, that term that I'm just learning what it means, that mass in your face of a wall right at that corner is what's bothering people. That's what's reflected in these letters. It's not the 6 stories per se, not the absolute height. So if the development was terraced, so you have, I don't know if this is showing up online, but if you had 2nd floor and then the 3rd floor slightly behind the 2nd floor and the 4th floor slightly behind the 3rd floor, you wouldn't look up and see 6 stories, a wall, you would see 2 stories. And then you have to be pretty far back to see the top of the building. And that would keep the character and the feel downtown of a quaint, small seaside village. So that's the intent behind this motion. And I was going to do it separately, but the fact that we're having that discussion with the amenity contribution makes sense to add it as an amendment. Thanks.
Councillor Grant.
Yeah, I think we're acting a bit like amateur architects here, and I don't think that we actually know what we're talking about. I think that when you look at the size of the lot, it's very constrained. And it's unfortunate that it's as constrained as it is, but it means that you can't move the building back, which means if you want to terrace it, you have to take suites out. When you take suites out, it doesn't make economic sense anymore. So I think if we pass your motion, that will be that will be the end of this project. That is my interpretation of it. If you could actually move the back of the building back farther, then you could actually maybe do some of this. But I think the constraints on this site are so tight that you just can't do that. So I won't be voting for the amendment on that because I think it will be the end of the project.
I'll just quickly speak in favor of supporting the amended motion. I think if we look at kind of what type of legacy this building would leave in the center of town on one of the busiest roads, it's for pedestrians, it's for people in driving. It is 75-foot wall that would amass our main kind of central street. So definitely in favor of a more tiered approach. And I don't think that was fully looked at after the community consultation. So would fully support that. It's not about being against the condo units, but if it means 10% less units to get a building that would be a fit and feel for the community for the next 100 years, I would fully support that. Councillor Swift and then Councillor Hazlitt.
Thank you. I'm a little concerned about being so specific with the motion. I'm wondering if we could change it so that we could ask the architect and developer to consider other ways to reduce the effect of the massing. So maybe tiering, maybe landscaping, maybe, going 2 stories and then back and 2 stories. I don't know the answers because I don't have a skill set that would address that, but I'm sure they could come up with some other ideas that might be more palatable to everybody.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's directly to Councillor Swift, and then we'll go on to Councillor Hazlitt after that.
Yeah, and I agree. Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not an architect, right? So I'm not an expert in this, and I don't play architect. That's why actually I went to I asked our director of planning, Marvin, to help make this motion and to write it so that it was specifically broad enough to give planning and the architect the flexibility. We're not saying exactly how it should be tiered. It's just terracing of building mass is a very broad statement. So not prescriptive. I don't know exactly how it should be done, but it would be at least to have that conversation. Again, the open house was 9 months ago. It was a long time ago that we had these discussions from the public. So at some point, the public consultation and the suggestions from planning may be something that the developer might want to consider before bringing it to council for first and second reading. So that was the intent of that. It's sufficiently broad, according to the director of planning, I would assume, since he wrote it.
And Councillor Kerr, I'll have you read it out when we get to the end, just to make sure it's all clear on what the intent is, and go back to that. Councillor Hazlitt.
I can understand why the terracing would be a great thing to have, especially in that location, as it is, a great kind of gateway into our downtown. And I do very much understand that the public feels quite strongly about that. I worry that major changes like this could kill a project that could really offer a lot of strong economic contribution to the downtown core, not only in getting, I believe it was 92 residents into the downtown who can help a lot of the storefronts down there, but as well as local builders and contractors who are going to have an opportunity to work where they live. I won't be in favor of the amended motion, but I'd be voting in favor of the initial motion on the table.
Thanks for those comments. We'll go online to Councillor Mayer.
Thank you. Thanks so much for this motion. I'm definitely in favor of it. This is my first term. This is like one of the first kind of projects like this that we're working with. And what I keep on hearing about is how important it is to work collaboratively between councils and developers. And I think this terracing and dealing with the massing thinking really about how critical that corner is, and also, of course, understanding the economic opportunity we have, the housing opportunity we have, all the strengths with this project. I'm really hopeful that we can come to a solution that meets everyone's needs. I think that's our task, and I'm an optimist, and I'll be voting for the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. It looks like there's no further comments from the table. Councillor Kerr, would you just mind reading the proposed amendment again for everybody?
Sure. So in addition to the original motion, which is about supporting the amenity contribution, seems to have support around the table. This amendment says that when a rezoning bylaw for consideration of the first reading is introduced for council consideration, it include the requirement for terracing of building mass above the second story to reduce its prominence over the streetscape.
Thank you for reading that. So we are going to go, Councillor Blacklock for our first comment.
Again, I think we're getting prescriptive here in how we're going to tell people to build buildings. It's if you want to create the illusion of terracing, there's another way to do this. And it involves extending either awnings or balconies out in front, so you don't have what you guys are calling a wall. It would be more that if you recess the balconies and extend awning out over the sidewalk, it will have the effect of looking like the second floor will actually look like it's stepped back. Now, I'm fine with the look of the building now as is, and I think, you know, we got to be brave here and get some housing approved in our downtown. That's what people are asking for. Yes, people don't like certain elements of the design of the building, but it's not their building. So for me, I'm voting against this amendment, and let's let the architects and the developer decide what the building's going to look like.
Councillor Kerr.
It's not their building, but it is their downtown. And this is the major corner, major square of our downtown.
It's one of four.
Councillor Blacklock, we're
And-
speaking one at a turn, please. Thank you.
And I feel we have heard overwhelmingly from the public that they're not comfortable with the changes to the character of downtown. And this motion will still allow a very large building with many units being built with the change in the amenity policy, amenity contribution, but will also take in consideration the citizens of Comox who have not yet, but will certainly be affected by a 6-story wall on the main corner. Thanks.
Councillor Grant.
Well, I don't think that we've heard from a large number of people. I read the reports, I read through all of those. There was a few that talked about massing, but to say that it's prominently, that the public is upset with the massing, I think is a vast overstatement on this. But I still say that if we start changing this and start looking at terracing, I think that this project will be done. We won't get it, and when we don't get it, you have to own the mall to be able to build on that site, so that site will become defunct and we will have nothing on it. So I think the question here is, do you want a building on there and try and revitalize our downtown, or don't you? And I think that's the fundamental question you have to ask tonight.
Any other comments before we vote? Councillor Swift.
I guess I'm conflicted about how to vote, because I'd like the massing issue to be addressed, but I'm not sure that terracing is the only option. So I don't know how to support that or defeat it.
I'm just going to go over to staff quickly, and then we'll go back to Councillor Kerr. Is there this is obviously not the first decision point, because there'll also be a public hearing on this. So between now and then, kind of what would the options for Councillor Swift's massing question be? Like, this is not a final, this is the project how it's going to be. So from staff, when will this maybe be able to look at again if we pass it as it is? What's our next decision point?
The next decision point will be when the project comes back for your first and second readings. And the motion that you have on the table will direct how that project comes back. As been mentioned around the council table, there are other methods to look at massing, terracing being one of them, terracing being the most effective way to deal with it, but there are other ways that you can try and adjust it as well. So I guess council will need to decide tonight whether or not you want to simply provide direction to the developer to bring something back that has a reduction in massing considered, which may include terracing, or do you want to have something brought back to you that addresses a reduction in massing that includes and must include the terracing?
Do you have any follow-up with that, Councillor Swift, as far as a response?
Well, I'd be happy to hear of some of the other options. I mean, terracing is obviously a great option, but maybe not practical for this particular site. So if there's some other ways around it, I'd be interested in hearing about those.
CAO Wall's going to follow up, and then we'll go back to Councillor Grant.
Yeah, thanks. And just sorry, back to your original question, Mayor Minions. This is not the last time that council is going to be looking at this. You're going to be getting it in your first and second readings. You're going to have an opportunity at that point, and you'll also have an opportunity after the public hearing. But addressing it prior to the public hearing is preferred, especially on an issue that may result in the potential loss of units or loss of square footage. So, now is not the last time you'll have a chance to take a look at this. So it really comes down to council's desire and strategy on how you would like this to be addressed.
Thank you, Councillor Grant.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to vote for this amendment regardless, but it says that it includes the requirement for terracing, which means you have to terrace. And I think that that's probably a wording flaw in the amendment. If you want to look at other options, that precludes you from doing that.
Over to Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, just to respond to Councillor Swift's suggestion, just to make it more broad, again, I'm not wedded to terracing either, just something that's less of a feel of that, a change downtown. Perhaps we change it to say something like, to include the requirement of reducing its prominence, the building's prominence over the streetscape, such as terracing, so the requirement is reducing the overhang feel, but leave it up to planning and the developer's architects to come up with the specifics. I'm open to that kind of an amendment to the amendment.
Okay, do you want to make that now and see if there's a seconder for that?
Sure. Okay.
Or to CAO Wall?
If I could just suggest, let maybe just defeat the amendment and reintroduce the amendment, because we're going to be getting into just changing wording around. So if council were to defeat this amendment and we introduce a new amendment with the desired wording, that's probably the simplest way to go.
Okay, so without further discussion, we'll work on the proposed amendment, which would be that it is a requirement for the developer at 215 Port Augusta to do tiering in order to deal with the community concern for the massing. Councillor Kerr. So all those in favor of the proposed amendment? And sorry, all those in favor to opposed? And so that is defeated. And are there any other proposed amendments that councillors would like to make on this? Councillor Kerr.
Doing this kind of on the fly here. Okay. An amendment is that when a rezoning bylaw for consideration of first reading is introduced for council's consideration, it include the requirement of the building to reduce its prominence over the streetscape. For example, the terracing of the building mass above the second story. So it gives an example, but doesn't make the requirement the actual terracing.
Okay, do we have a seconder of that proposed amendment? I will second that for discussion. So any discussion on the proposed amendment, which doesn't have it as a requirement, but it is now an example of the massing? Councillor Hazlitt.
I'll still be voting. I'll be voting against the new amendment. I still believe strongly in the economic impact that this building is going to be able to provide to our downtown, and I am worried that if we start changing things too much, we're going to, as Councillor Grant had said, lose the site for a long period of time.
We're going to go online, and I apologize. I don't know who had their hand up first, but we'll go Councillor Blacklock and then Councillor Mayer online, please.
Yeah, I'm going to still vote against this amendment. As I said before, the one thing that came out of the downtown meetings last week was an opportunity here to be brave. And to say that the community doesn't want this building is we've had some opposition expressed, but I don't think it's a matter of an entire community not wanting this building in its current form. So I'm going to vote against the amendment.
Thanks, Councillor Blacklock. Councillor Mayer.
I find it so interesting how we can hear things so differently, because I also really heard when we were with the BIA of how important it is to work together with developers to meet community needs. And I see it as a different kind of bravery to really focus on form and function that will meet the long-term needs of the community and support community's identity. So I would find it to be extremely tragic for there to be an impression that I was against this project. I'm not at all. I'm actually very much in favor. I just am really interested in working together on the form. So I also, I think I echo Councillor Swift's concerns. I don't want to compromise the project in any way. I just really do want to address the form issues. So I'm still voting for the motion and really hoping for collaboration.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments before we vote on the amended motion? Just the amended motion. Amendment. I just wanted to say quickly, I think this is a great opportunity to bring a new housing development to the Valley to get that affordable housing contribution. There is a way that can be win-win, but I think it is really important that it's been black and white on how the project is going, and it would be a missed opportunity to not have a motion pass where at least the massing is considered, because I think it's a small consideration that should have been considered in previous by the architect. So I will be voting in favor of at least looking at what the different massing options are before we get to a first and second reading. Councillor Grant.
So I believe it was looked at by the architect before, and it was determined that if you did it, that they would lose too many suites and the building would not be viable anymore. So just so you know.
Yeah, from my personal perspective, I did not see those plans or hear that option. So just from a win-win perspective, I think it should still be considered. So we'll vote on the amendment now. All those in favor, maybe Councillor Kerr, I'll just get you to read it out one more time, just so it's very clear. Thank you.
And thanks for everyone's input on this. I really appreciate all the discussion. Okay, so the amendment is that when a rezoning bylaw for consideration of first reading is introduced for council consideration, it include the requirement of reducing the building's prominence over the streetscape, such as in the terracing of building mass above the second story.
Thank you for reviewing that. So all those in favor of the amendment? And opposed? And that amendment passes. Thank you, everyone, for that discussion. So we're moving on to 543 page. Oh, I'm sorry. We have the amended, my apologies. We have the amended motion for 215 Port Augusta as it reads on page 150 with the amendment that the massing be reviewed. So all of those in favor of the motion as amended? In favor and opposed? And that passes. Thank you. So now we're on page 543, the Village Park Tot Lot Playground Renewal. That $150,000 funding for the renewal of the playground at Village Park Tot Lot as part of the Capital and Special Projects Budget 2024 as recommended in the November 15th, 2023 report to Mayor and Council from the Parks Department titled Village Park Tot Lot Renewal be approved. Can I have a motion?
I'll move it just so we can discuss this.
Sure. Thanks, Councillor Grant. And a
Second.
seconder? Seconded by Councillor Kerr. And for discussion, Councillor Haslett.
I drove past this site the other day. It is well used. But I think that coming up, the town is going to have a lot of money that we're going to be asking from our residents, and any money that we can save and put it towards saving on taxes is a better way to go. There are two really, really great playgrounds within close proximity to the Tot Lot. I think there are some other options that we could do rather than putting $150,000 into this and upgrading it, such as sandblasting it and repainting it, and it would be substantially cheaper. I will not vote for the recommendation on this. I would choose to make an alternative to the recommendation here that we sandblast it and repaint it, just strictly due to the amount of money that it's going to cost.
Thanks for those comments, Councillor Grant.
Yeah, so I guess this is starting to get into where we're going with this agenda, which is the beginnings of our budgeting and our special projects. And for me, it's really difficult to say yes to something like this when I have no idea where we are with our taxes, what we're going to be looking at. I mean, if we're at a 0% tax increase, sure, maybe. But if we're at a 20% tax increase, then the answer is no. And I have no clue where we are with that right now. I don't know what all the money that's coming from the province is going to provide. I know that people can't stand another tax increase like we had last time. And so I find it really difficult to have this stuff on the agenda at this time when I just haven't got any idea where we're headed.
Thanks. Yeah, one of my questions was going to be, we've kind of looked at that area for future recreation as far as likely not a pump track, but we now have a second disc golf at Comox Golf Club that's up and going this spring. So it's that area is not necessarily 100% going to be that exact use for the next 20 years to come. So I would look to see if it doesn't get approved tonight, when it would kind of fall in the future to come back for consideration if it's not approved, and if it was just blasted and painted.
Thank you. If it's not included in this year's capital plan, we would bring it back to council next year. It's up for renewal, so we would just keep bringing it back until you either replace it or tell us to stop. Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't disappear forever, that's what the answer I was hoping to hear. Councillor Swift, and
Sorry.
then Councillor Kerr.
Well, I'm just wondering if we could get a cost comparison for sandblasting and repainting. I know the kids really enjoy that park, and they love having the bushes to run in and out of, and it's kind of unique in that way. But if I wouldn't be in favor of doing absolutely nothing to it. It's in sad state. So we either need to doll it up or replace it.
Thank you for that, Councillor Kerr, and then Councillor Mayer online. Thanks.
Just a question for staff. I remember it was either a year ago or 2 years ago, the discussion was to kind of, because there's another park so close, the one on the other side of the community center, to kind of let this infrastructure age out and then retire that as a park. So I'm just curious why the change in the thinking. Is there like a fundamental shift in like population growth in the area, or why the thought was to change tact on the use of that park?
Over to COA.
Thank you. The reason we hadn't brought that for replacement in the last couple of years is we were looking at it as a potential location for either a pump track or skate park, but in consultation with some of the people that work in these in design, they took a look and said, unless you're willing to remove all the trees around it, you're just going to get too much debris on it day after day, and it's going to cause issues. So we moved off of that location as a potential site, and that brings us back to renewing the infrastructure that we have there. So we don't have any plans to retire that as a children's park right now.
Thank you for those comments. Councillor Mayer.
Thank you. I had similar kind of questions, but maybe a little bit more specific. I'm just wondering, with the Parks Master Plan that's on the horizon, if that would give us kind of more information about how this kind of fits in with taking a bit of a longer term view. I really appreciate how important it is, like how niche this park is, and the importance of those early years. Having a public space to connect is really important. So it's not for me about whether or not it's important. It's just about sequencing.
Sorry, I missed. Was there a question there, or that's just commenting on sequencing?
No, there was a question about if the master plan, the Parks Master Plan process would give us more information about what is needed, and like, I'm wondering if we're thinking of this magnitude of renewal too early in a planning process, essentially.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Councillor Mayer. So over to CAO Wall for a sequencing question.
Thank you. It's possible that what comes out of the Parks Master Plan process is that there is a gap identified in the type of parks that are being provided, and that the Tot Lot Park could fill that gap. I would say we probably don't think at this point it's likely, but it's certainly a potential outcome of the master planning process.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions on the Tot Lot before we go to vote for it being included in this year's budget for $150,000? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, and that's defeated unanimously.
It'll be back next year.
I was just on a field trip for 2 hours there with like 3 classrooms, and no child complained about the playground. So in a positive, the kids aren't noticing that it's as old as it is, and seemed to be safe at the time. So going on to page 548, we have the new automated collection service and solid waste management bylaw. So there is that solid waste management bylaw number 2027 be given first reading. Thank you. We're still going to use our mics, but Councillor Grant, and then seconded by Councillor Haslett. All those in favor? Sorry, discussion. No. Losing my voice slowly. Councillor Kerr. Nope, sorry. So for discussion, no discussion. All those in favor? No? Councillor Swift.
I have some things I need to have clarified.
Okay, so we'll do questions. That'd be the right time right now. So Councillor Swift with a question.
Okay, thank you. I'm wondering about the set-out service, the assisted service, and it indicates that a fee for that service, and then the $3.50 would be applied to the rest of the taxpayers. But my question is, how many of these, is that that would be per house, I'm assuming. So how many of these are we anticipating budgeting for?
So we're not sure at this point. We know that it's been happening informally in the community in the past, and this will be a formal process. So how many applications we get in, we don't know. We do know that we have a large senior population. We have a large senior population that are still within single family homes. So we've tried to budget accordingly, but there is a level of guesswork that's happening on our part for that budget amount.
So I guess my concern is that this could get pretty expensive pretty quickly. I mean, it would be pretty hard to turn down somebody who needs assistance. Some of those garbage cans, even though they're wheeled, are pretty heavy. And I could see the demand being fairly big.
So one of the I think one of the maybe misconceptions about these carts that people will find when they get to them is that if somebody was able to get a traditional garbage cart out to their curb, it is likely going to be easier for them to take these wheeled carts out because they're designed to be ergonomically balanced when you're tilting them and pushing them. So there should be, it shouldn't be that much more difficult. Now, there's obviously differences in balance where where mobility issues might come into it. But what we will have the ability to do as well is review this on a yearly basis. If the uptake into this program is much bigger than we thought it was going to be, and it ends up that we're don't have enough revenue to cover it, we would bring it back to council the next year and say, we either need to increase the fees or it's going to result in this amount of money being this amount of money requiring subsidization from the other users.
So at this point, we're not going to set an amount that we're work towards?
The amount that we're proposing to set, I believe it's about $100.
You know what I mean, the number of applicants.
We don't have a set amount, like a cap of how many people we will allow in. If you meet the criteria and submit the application, then you would be on the program.
And so I guess, what is the criteria then?
That you are medically unable to bring the carts out to the curb. That's the criteria, that you physically can't do it.
And I have another question, if I may. You would be amazed at how many different ways I interpreted this. So I think this is what I ended up coming up with. If you want an additional cart, you apply, and it's $35. Correct. And then the extra money is added on, like I'm thinking of the $320, I think it is. So it would be the $35 plus another $167.53 for an additional organics cart. Is that correct?
So the $35 a one-time fee,
Right.
and then the other cart fee is the permanent increase for that service every year. So you'd pay that moving forward. So one-time $30 application, $35 application fee, and then that's your additional fee for the cart to be picked up every year. Yes.
Okay, well, I finally got it straightened out in my mind. Thank you.
I'll just thank Councillor Swift for that. Two of the points I was supposed to preface that with was there is the setting of the fees for the additional carts and the assisted set out program. So you asked one question from each of those, so thank you. So we can have a discussion around those 2 points and any others. Councillor Grant.
Yeah, so I don't know, I'm still not sure I've got this right, but we have about 5,300 residential properties, which is roughly what we're talking about with these bins. And if every one of them wanted the step out pickup, it would be about $18,000 a year, $19,000 a year. Is that, have I got that right? 5,300 times 350? Well, mine is, it says 18,550, right? So I'm gonna guess we're close with that anyway. So I guess when I look at this, I think that to charge the elderly and the people that just physically can't get their cans to the curb, I think you just run into nothing but problems with that. And if the grand total, and let's say that it's less than half of that, because we don't have that many people and disabled people in town, we're not really talking about that much money. And I think that we should probably just do this. Otherwise, I can just see the complaints and all of the things going on, and it just makes more sense to me to just do it if we're, rather than try and figure it out and get into all of that. And it's the right thing to do anyways.
Yeah, there could be more cost in trying to manage a program than doing that. Any other comments, or that would be a amendment needed for the bylaw, just to confirm if there was no additional assisted cost? Councillor Grant, did you want, I'll go to Councillor Blacklock online, and then Councillor Grant, if you want to make that amendment.
Yeah, I just speak in favor of us, covering that for those who would apply. We could even call it the Garbage Angels.
Thanks for that comment, Councillor Blacklock. I was thinking the same thing on the multiple Angels programs we're getting into. Councillor Grant, any consideration for a motion?
Comment on Councillor Blacklock's handsome mustache there. That's really awesome. Yeah. No, I would say that we should absorb the cost of the step out program for those that, what would we call it, that meet the qualifications.
Second.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Kerr has seconded. Any questions or comments on that amendment? Any comments from staff before we vote on that? Not necessary, but.
Maybe I'll just ask Mr. Creek, do you feel with the elimination of that revenue that's coming in, do we need to take these bylaws back and reconsider our rates for regular users in order to cover the required fees?
I would argue yes, if we're going to give it to everybody. The thing is, the set out fee actually charged by Aptera is about $460 per property, like, per year. So it's, if 5,300 people did actually want this service, that would be $2.5 million. And that's where, if we just give it out for free, who wouldn't want their garbage to be picked up for free? They don't have to roll it out, they just put it outside their door, and then the Aptera driver has to come and get it. I would.
So, sorry, just with the elimination of the $100, I just want to understand, with the reduction of that, or elimination of the $100 set out fee, are we going to have enough revenue to cover the cost of the service next year? Or with the elimination of that fee, do you think that we need to adjust the other costs in order to ensure that the service remains in the black?
I would say we would have to increase the fee. I would expect more people to use the service.
Okay, back to Councillor Grant.
Yeah, so my assumption on this is that it's $3.50 per household, I guess, that wants to do this. And that there would be some fairly strict criteria for who could actually qualify for this. Like if you're fully able-bodied, you don't need this. But if you are having problems, and I'm thinking in terms of probably at the most a couple of thousand is my guess. I mean, I'm just guessing, but I mean, I'm not, unless I've got the math all wrong here. I don't think I think it really comes down to who qualifies and what the criteria are.
Yeah, it sounds like those kind of two numbers are quite different from each other. So just as far as a timing perspective on this bylaw, specifically with the solid waste management, is this something that needs to be passed tonight, or with a motion from council that we want it to be relooked at as far as the assisted being covered within the numbers and finding out if the numbers then need to be slightly increased? Is there a timing issue with this coming back in December?
We can move this. We need to have adopted before the end of the year, but we have the opportunity to do that in December, especially if we just add a regular onto, or a special meeting onto the committee meeting in December and deal with this item. I would say it's better for us to get it right than to try and rush it through this meeting. So as Mr. Creek highlighted, the cost to the town is about $400, $300 of which is subsidized by other ratepayers, leaving $100 left over. That's what's in the bylaw now. If we eliminate that extra $100, what we will do going into the next meeting is to take a look at the amount of revenue we need to, or the cost increase we need from the other properties to cover the expected. Again, it's a little bit of a shot in the dark this year, and we can always adjust next year to make sure that we're getting things right and balancing it. And we would imagine by next year, we will have a really good idea of how many people are going to be utilizing the service. So the application process is that you will need to apply to the town to be able to get into this program. And on that, you will need to attest to the fact that you are physically unable to do the cart set out yourself, and you don't have anybody within your home that is able to do it for you. With that, we are not requiring medical information of residents to confirm it.
So just to confirm, if there was a motion instead that the bylaws be given consideration on the assisted and it's just moved to a December meeting, that will work as far as passing 1 through 6. There's the 2 sets of bylaws. We can just have a motion to have the assisted cart program reviewed and move the whole thing. There's no
Correct.
point passing part and not the full part. Okay, so we'll go back to Councillor Grant. If you
Right.
just want to make a motion that staff review the bylaw and the bylaw notice enforcement amendment together to include the town covering or all residents covering the assisted cart program.
Yeah, I'll move that.
It's very wordy, but
Yeah.
I covered
Second.
what CEO Wall and yourself. Thank you.
Now, but where are we in all this? Because we had a motion, we had an amendment, now we're making another motion. I'm not sure where we're at with all this.
We were on discussion of your amendment, so we can defeat the amendment and then have that new motion come on the floor if staff is okay with that.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Similar to the way we did the last one. Okay, so the current amendment says that we would just cover it and leave it and pass the bylaw this evening, which staff has commented that that would likely not be the best approach, that they can come back with a new bylaw that takes all financial considerations into effect for a December meeting. So if we're going with staff recommendation, we would be defeating the amendment and having a new amendment come on the floor. So all those in favor of having the bylaw updated tonight to include the assisted cart program, all those in favor? Opposed? That's defeated unanimously. Thank you, everyone. And Councillor
And I'll
Grant.
move the next motion that
So we
made,
will.
whatever that was.
We will have the bylaw reviewed by staff once again and take into consideration. It sounded like there was approval for the assisted cart program to be considered within the cost, but we want to see what those numbers specifically look like for a meeting in December of 2024 at our special council meeting. All those in favor of that amendment from Councillor Grant? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. So we're going to leave the solid waste management bylaw 2027 and the enforcement bylaw 2004.02 for a future meeting. Thank you.
Can I ask one other quick question?
Of course, Councillor Kerr.
Page 554, table 3, it says additional recycling carts. And just, I think we're going to get a lot of requests for additional organics carts. Am I missing something there? Should we have a line for people asking for additional organics carts?
Thank you for that question. I'll go to CAO Wall for that.
Yeah, table 3, the 4th row.
So it says garbage, recycling, additional recycling, and organics. What if people ask for an additional organics cart?
Sorry, the fee for, I'll just look to Director Russman, but the fee for the additional organics cart is the organics, and the reason that the additional recycling carts has its own line is because we get revenue from Recycle BC, and there's a different cost amount. So the additional organics carts is what is listed.
Okay,
listed there.
that helps.
Is that right?
I see the stars and the rationale below for recycling, but additional organics carts will be the same as regular organics.
That's correct.
Perfect, thank you.
That's a good question. So the structure that we have here is that we are providing additional carts for organic and recycling at the cost to the town to provide that service. And the reason for the 2 rows on recycling is that there's 2 different costs for the town on recycling because of the contract with Recycle BC.
Perfect. Good question, Councillor Kerr. Thank you.
I'm sorry,
Councillor Kerr.
I want to make sure, because we get asked so many of these questions by the public. Can I do this? Can I do that? I just want to make sure I understand one last thing, and it may have been covered by Councillor Swift's question. Table 2, just the page above, the cart exchange fee. Does that mean if someone really doesn't like their big recycling bin, they can for sure switch it out for a smaller recycling bin for $35?
Correct.
After 6 months, correct?
After 6 months and supply dependent. We know we may be running out of carts at certain points, but as long as we have the carts and we'll order more, yes, you can do so.
Clear as mud, all these garbage changes coming. Okay, thank you for the detailed report on that. So we are leaving that until a future meeting. I believe we'll be on page 588 for fees and charges amendment bylaw 2016.01, that the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 26.01 be given first reading. Moved by Councillor Grant, seconder. On the mic, we have Councillor Hazlett. Thank you very much. And any questions or comments on that? All those in favor of first reading? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. That the
Second reading.
that the fees and charges be given second reading. Councillor Grant, thank you. And a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Hazlett or Councillor Blacklock, thank you online there. All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. We have third reading.
Move third.
Councillor Grant has moved. A seconder? Seconded by Councillor Hazlett. Any discussions or feedback on third reading? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We are now on to page 596. We have the 2024 capital and special projects budget. There are 4 different parts to this, and we're going to go through them one at a time. And I have CAO Wall.
We just have a short PowerPoint to go over a few of the projects and share a little bit of information with council on some of them.
Surprise presentation.
Staff don't mind
Thank you.
bringing that up. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we just have a few projects here that we are going to highlight. What's going to happen is we're just going to go through, there'll be a picture that comes up associated with the project, and the relevant director is going to speak to it to add a little bit of color to the projects. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them as we go along, but we don't have anybody coming up and standing at the podium. We're just going to kind of do it seated and round table style, as long as that's okay.
It's definitely okay. So we have Schedule A.
And we can maybe pass the clicker over to Director Ashfield, because she is responsible for, I think, 70% of the slides.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So, you guys can hear me? Yeah. So we're starting off with the conveyance project, our biggest for the next 2.5 years. This tender, as you're aware, is partnership with the Comox Valley Regional District Conveyance Project, which is highlighted in green. And that tender closed on October 31st. We had 7 submissions, 7 tender submissions. 4 were actually very competitive and came within budget. The notice of award for the conveyance project was awarded to Waycor Holdings, Waycor has quite a bit of experience. They're a local company. They did the construction of the Hudson trunk main line as well as the Greenwood trunk line for the regional district. So a lot of local experience. So it's good to have them on board and have somebody local. The total overall budget for so the highlighted projects that you can see are highlighted in red on the drawing that's up there now. So that's 7 capital projects that we're doing in partnership and coordination with the construction of the conveyance project. So we've got the 2 roundabouts. So I'll start on the left-hand side of the drawing, and so the first one in the real bottom, I think that's still within the regional district, but you'll see coming up the hill, we've got the round circle, so that's the Glacier View roundabout. And then continuing on, we've got the Rodello roundabout. Then we come down on Rodello onto Beaufort Avenue, and then we've got Beaufort upgrade, the bigger rectangle image there that is going to be upgraded from Church Street to Norton Street. Some shared bike lanes, some sidewalks, parking formalization on that section of road. And then we're putting a sidewalk on the south side of Balmoral between Pritchard and Stewart Street, and then repaving part of Balmoral Street and Torrance, going up to Lazo Road. So going to be busy in the next 2.5 years. So I think the message has been coming out to the public, but the regional district is working really hard on updating their construction schedule plan as well as the traffic plan as well. So more and more of this will be coming out to the community between now and January. They're working on it, so a lot of the messaging will come out in January, and they're hoping to start the construction of March of next year, 2024. I think that's all I have to say on that one. But pretty excited to get going on it. I think the tender results demonstrated how a partnership and collaboration on bigger projects is beneficial and getting good value to the project. The bigger the project is, usually the better tender results that we get. And so we've been seeing that with this project. So pretty excited to get that one started.
Councillor Blacklock online.
Well, only that Jen and I we're only seeing the file tree. We're not seeing the slides.
Okay, we'll just take a look into that for a moment and see if we can get that screen shared for you.
We're just seeing the Windows Explorer. Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Let's start over.
Thank you, and just let us know if that changes at all. Councillor Kerr, did you have a question specific to this?
Just a quick question for perhaps for Director Ashfield. Just wondering, there was significant cost savings with the Comox portion of the conveyance project. Like I think it was $9 million under budget for the Comox portion, which is great. And I know that that's a total decrease in the project cost. Will that be any direct cost savings for our town of Comox budget going forward?
Over to Director Ashfield.
Yeah, potentially, definitely. So the overall budget, it was just over 11 million. The tender came in just over 8. So we have, that leaves us a good 30% contingency, which is good. But yes, all efforts will be put in place to make sure we reduce costs as much as we can. But it's good to have that buffer if we do. It's like we don't know where everything is in the ground, and what we have on our record drawings, sometimes obviously not always accurate. So it's good to just have that 30% contingency would be nice. So definitely will be within budget. I'm pretty confident on that, but I'll hopefully be under that as well, because 30% is a nice contingency to have for sure. And the other way. So this one is the Lazo Greenway and then the Lazo Road widening project. We can combine it together as on one slide. So on the left-hand side is showing the Lazo Greenway project. The red portion of it is outside the town of Comox jurisdiction, so that would be the CVRD's responsibility. And then the blue is within the town of Comox. So that is, again, another partnership that we were doing with the CVRD. As you probably maybe don't remember, we got the federal funding. We did a joint application with the CVR on that, and we were awarded that up to just over $1 million and a maximum up to 60% of the total project cost. We are pretty much ready to go. We were held up a little bit on getting the Ministry of Transportation a permit to do the works within the rural area, and we just got that a couple of days ago. So we're formalizing the tender document and hoping to get that out to tender in January so we can get some good value and get started on that project as soon as possible, at least with some of the land clearing and more some of the clearing of the area, and hopefully have it complete construction by spring of 2024, if not summer of 2024. So that's pretty exciting to get going. I know the community has been waiting on that one for many years, so it'll be really good alternate modes of transportation that we can provide to the community. And then that ties into the portion that the Ministry of Transportation have done a number of years ago. So we'll finalize that cycling route basically from Balmoral all the way up to the roundabout at Pritchard. That's the airport. There's bike lanes there now too. So the project on the right is our existing Lazo project that we're doing right now with the road widening. So you're seeing a picture there that's just south of the boat ramp going up Lazo Road up to Kai Bay. So that's the first lift we have on there now. We had a little bit of archaeological impacts that put a little bit of delay on the project, but we worked closely with KFN and got through that. So we were hoping to get the second lift put on today, but we got some rain last night. So unfortunately, everybody cross your fingers for tomorrow or Friday. Some sunny weather, so hopefully we'll get that second lift down. There'll be some of the line paintings and some of the traffic calming measures. We'll have to come back and defer that for the spring just because it's just getting too wet and too cold to do some of the line painting. But if we can get that second lift up, we can finalize a lot of the driveways, get some signage up, and really clean it up for the winter. So that's the status of that project. So carrying it over into 2024. This one is the Mac Lane project and platform. So this one has been started. We've got Baseline on board to assist with all the archaeological permits and applications that we need in. They're a bit delayed with the Lazo project, but now they're back on this project. We had some structural reporting done as well. Actually, I think they're going out on Friday. We did a materials, hazardous building materials survey report done as well of the existing structure. So we're doing a lot of background info right now so that we can tie it into the detailed design. Right now, what you're looking at is just the concept design. So we're moving it into the detailed construction design so that we can get this moving. So it's going to be basically dependent on when we can get the permits and approvals from the Archaeological Association. So once the building is demolished, we have up to 18 months to complete the project. So we're hoping to get this project done by summer of 2024. Again, it's all dependent on when we can get the permits and approvals. I just sent in, working closely with the Journal General, and we just sent in our quarterly report yesterday. So keeping them up to date on the progress that we're doing with this project. So slowly getting there, and like I mentioned, we're hopeful that we can get it constructed. All depends on the permits and approvals, but we by some.
Of course, yeah, Councillor Swift with a question on the Mac Lane viewing platform or other.
Thanks, Shelley. I know this is just a concept, but it looks pretty low. I'm wondering how high that platform is going to be. I'm just concerned about the high tide lines and stormwater and things.
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, this definitely is a concept. And we're working on, like, obviously what we're trying to do is minimize as much impact that we will do in that area. And that's why we're looking at the foundation and seeing if we can just leave the foundation and build it up, and taking into account potentially that as well. So the exact height of the building is still forthcoming. So yeah, we're working on that.
Councillor Mayer online, do you have a question there?
I do, just maybe building on the question that Councillor Swift just asked. Do we have a sense of sea level rise impacts in this area? Are we accounting for that as well?
The CBRD did a climate change flood mapping report a couple years ago, I believe it is. So we've got that information that we can use. It was all along the foreshore, including the town of Comox. So we have that report that we can rely on.
That's great. I would love to know. So my understanding of that report was that they did the analysis, but only for the CBRD. So we might have the data, but not the analysis for the town specific sites, and that might be future work for us to do. But I would just love to know that that's being used. That's great. Thank you.
Pump track next.
Yeah, I can, sir. I'll jump in on the pump track. The pump track, we know that council's been eager to move this project forward. We've had site meetings to try and identify potential locations. Our hope, I'll look over at Robbie, our hope is still to bring a report to council first meeting in December. And at that meeting, council, you're going to be asked, would you like to just choose a location based on the analysis provided by staff? Do you want us to go to community consultation? And that is targeted for December. So excited to see this get moving forward as well.
Thanks, Yo. Well, we have a question from Councillor Haslett.
A few times that this has come up, it always seems that the question comes that it was grant dependent. Is that still the case?
Council's direction was to move forward with construction of a pump track, and then the skate park was going to be grant dependent.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a couple months back, about 2 or 3 months ago. We had a vote on that. Councillor Grant.
Yeah, that wasn't my recollection of this either. I thought that the pump track was going to be grant dependent, as was the skate park.
I'll just go over to CAO Wall. We different collection on that.
Regardless, the report is going to be coming to council in December, and you'll have the opportunity to provide direction as to whether or not you want it to be constructed. One of the things you'll notice is that there is no capital expansion cost for the skate park, like there is for all other capital expansions, and that's because we're looking to get a better understanding of what the cost will be, and there'll be a specific report on this coming very soon. So you'll have the opportunity to look at this, hopefully your first meeting in December, and you can provide direction for us to move forward, to get a shelf-ready project for a grant, or to just move on and look at something else.
Thank you. So coming in the near future, it sounds like on that. Was there a question from this side of the table? I thought I saw hands up. Nope. Okay. Any other comments on pump track before they continue? Okay. CEO Wall or Director Ashfield, depending on where we are.
Chimo bathroom.
Amy, you're up.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. So we're looking at adding a bathroom and constructing a bathroom for Chimo Gymnastics. Right now, they are limited to their operations and their services to the community based on the community center operating hours. So it's been discussion for a while to be able to extend their hours and offer more programs, because if you have a child in the valley, you know how hard it is to get into these programs. And so having a bathroom there just allows them access and be able to offer more programs.
Council is aware, because I remember at one council meeting telling them I needed to pause at 6 o'clock because if I didn't have my daughters registered by 6:01, I would have missed my opportunity.
Just a quick question, and I apologize if I misheard there, the purpose of the bathroom was to kind of allow them to have their own hours too outside of our own staffed rec center hours, so they can operate on their own.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll also add that Chimo's agreed to pay for half of this project, and so it would be a joint construction project funded by Chimo and the town.
Perfect, but it would still be owned obviously by the rec center, so covered by half. Okay, thank you very much. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Any questions on that project? Okay, next.
Well, this is our replacement ladder truck, one of our 3 large vehicles that we have in the fire department. We've had a fleet of 3 large vehicles for the last 40 years, so it's not an expansion of fleet, it's just a replacement of an existing 21-year-old ladder truck. This was in our capital plan last year and was approved. It was ordered about 22 months ago. We're hoping for delivery in the next 3 or 4 months, probably in the new year. A cost of $1.6 million. About 50% of that has been funded by BC wildfire revenue over the last 10 years, $200,000 this year. The rest would be funded by the Comox taxpayers and our partner in fire protection, which is the Comox Fire Protection District, which will be paying a third of the capital cost of this. Also on this program, we've entered into a bit of an agreement with the regional district to buy our surplus ladder truck for possibly up on Mount Washington, which would give us about $60,000+ revenue. What else can I say about this? The truck has anti-idle technology, which means that when it's at an emergency scene, if it's not being used as a pumping fire engine or the ladder's not up, the truck will shut down and run off batteries for up to an hour or so. With its emergency lights working. It has no gas-powered equipment on it, so this truck will be our first in our fleet with all battery-operated tools. So no generators, no chainsaws, those are all battery. And it's got what we call a clean cab technology, which takes viruses and cleans the air in the cab for the occupants. Happy to field any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief Shiner. We have a question from Councillor Grant.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot about 6-story buildings. We've got things coming in for 6- and 7-story buildings. The province is saying go higher. Is that going to create any problems for the equipment that we currently have?
No, a great question. Our current ladder truck is 65 feet in length. This one will be 110 feet in length. But really, when you look at ladder trucks, it's not so much the height, it's more the reach. So if you think about reaching over a sidewalk or parked cars, the 100 feet gives us additional reach. Any buildings 4 stories or higher are sprinkled, fully sprinkled. So if you think about the larger cities in Vancouver and other places with 30, 40-story buildings, they don't have 300 or 400-foot ladder trucks. So this is considered a fairly long ladder truck. Having said that, it's going to be very capable. A big addition on this ladder truck is that basket you see in the end there that says Tower 35 on it. That basket is capable of carrying 3 people in it, so it's like an elevator to bring folks up and down from their balconies. Currently on your ladder truck you have in the community, if we have to rescue somebody off a balcony, we have to carry them down a foot ladder, so climb them down, get them to the ground, go back up, get the next person, and so on. So this is much a better rescue tool, much more efficient. Another thing I would say on this truck is it's built by the largest manufacturer in North America, Pierce Fire Engines in the States. Their sales are several $1 billion a year. This is only one of many they're going to build. There's another 15 trucks like this in BC, exactly like this one, and I almost just ordered their second one. So looks pretty much the same as this. The truck was ordered for its bumper-to-bumper length, so it'll fit in your existing fire hall. If we ordered almost any other ladder truck, we would have to enlarge the truck apparatus area in the fire station. For example, City of Courtenay ordered a truck, or had a truck delivered last year that's about 8 feet longer bumper to bumper than this truck is, and it would not fit in our fire stations. So it's all coming together well. The truck was originally slated to be delivered now, and we've told it's been delayed for many reasons, but that's probably not a bad thing for us. It'll just last longer on the other end. Once this truck's delivered, it'll be in our fleet for 20+ years.
Thank you. Thank you for that update, Chief Shiner. I know it's much anticipated. So that looks like the presentation from senior leadership. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to Director Ashfield and CAO Wall for their work on the Lazo Greenway widening. I know that was a big project to get completed and still in progress, but thank you specifically on that project. Any questions at the end of that presentation before we move on to schedules A through D? Okay, so we have the first that council approved for expenditure, the capital and special projects in Schedule A of the November 15th, 2023 report from CAO titled 2024 Capital and Special Projects Budget. for the 2024 to 2028 draft financial plan. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Hazlitt, seconded by Councillor Grant. Feedback or comments on Schedule A? All those in favor of Schedule A? Any opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Number 2, that we look at Schedule B of the November 15th, 2023 report for 2024 to 2028 draft financial plan. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Moved by Councillor Grant, seconded by Councillor Hazlitt. If we can just use our mics for those online. And questions, Councillor Hazlitt?
I'm just curious on a little bit more detail on this, the creation of a local area service regime supporting bylaws Lake Road View for use in Northeast Comox as a carryover. If I could just get a little bit more background on that.
Thanks for the question, CAO Wall.
Thank you. So when Northeast Comox is developing, what will happen for stormwater specifically is there's going to be a creation of a stormwater pond, and that pond is going to service a specific geographical area. And what a local area service is, it's a taxing regime that ensures that the cost of maintenance and repair and replacement of that infrastructure is only paid for by the people who use it. So as the Northeast Comox subdivision comes on at 1000 Pritchard and other locations in that area, we will establish local area services that attach the storm ponds to the area being served by the storm ponds, and those homes specifically, and those homes only pay for the maintenance, upkeep, and replacement of the of those storm infrastructure.
Any other questions on Schedule B? Okay, all those in favor of Schedule B? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. So moving on, we have that council approve for expenditure the capital and special projects in Schedule C of the November 15th, 2023 report of the 2024 capital and special projects for 2024 to 2028 draft financial plan. If I can get a motion. Moved by Councillor Grant, seconded by Councillor Swift. Any comments or feedback? I had a quick question, but I just have to look quickly. On the the 220,000 for the development application review, part of it is the application software implementation. And I'm just wondering what the rough timeline for the software application might be, as I know that's one that council is really looking forward to having started.
So the technical analysis of our infrastructure is almost complete. Our computer infrastructure is almost complete, and we are working through completing the update of our rezoning application process as well. So those will be coming in the near future. The application process changes will be done a lot sooner than the development software. Development software, we're likely going to have to get grants in order to do. The money that we have in here is not going to be enough likely for implementation. We also have questions that we need answered at the end of this analysis as to whether or not our financial software is going to be able to stand the test of time in Comox. And if we have to bring in new financial software, will we need to do that prior to bringing in the development application software? And the changeover of our base financial software is going to be a major project, and it's going to be expensive. Think in the realm of $750,000.
Okay, so there's no date attributed to the actual software. It's more the early planning that's that funding.
Correct. Yeah. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. That may be okay to bring in a patchwork software to just get things digitized, but whether or not that's enough for a full solution, and whether that full solution can work with the changes that are going to likely be required in finance as the town grows, there's just a lot that needs to be looked at before we can make a final decision on the software. But I think coming out of that development application review, the software is good. The software is definitely something that we want to be targeting, but what we heard clearly in that report is it's the application processes that we need to make changes on, and those will be coming a lot sooner and need to be done prior to the software getting implemented anyway.
Okay, when I saw the application software, I wasn't sure what that meant. Thank you very much for that clarification. Councillor Kerr?
Quick comment and then a question. Comment just on these tables, the bottom of each page, the dates I think are off by 1 year. So it should start 2024. Easy fix. Question either for the CAO or for the chief about the 2028 fire hall update and expansion. Just curious, more out of curiosity, what we're thinking there, and curious to hear about the expansion and what it's needed for.
Thanks. I'll turn it over to the fire chief.
Wonderful. 2028, the existing fire hall will be 50 years old. The proposal for this is to expand the office side, the wood structure side of the fire station, and leave the apparatus side as is. As I mentioned earlier, with the truck we've just ordered, we've ordered it to fit in that building. The truck is designed for the last 25 years, so I think we'll get a lot more time out of the construction side or the concrete side of the building. The office side, however, we currently have a 1.5-story building there. Has 3 offices in there. We have 8 staff. We have 1 shower in there, 1 small bedroom, and a very small kitchen. So definitely it served its purpose, but it has to be expanded, busting at the seams. And we're also seeing some age and wear. We've got our building maintenance people doing some work on it on a fairly regular basis lately, trying to hold it together. So, and again, this would be cost shared with our partners.
Thank you. Any other questions for Schedule C? Okay, all those in favor of Schedule C? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Final schedule, we have that council approved for expenditure the capital and special projects in Schedule D of the November 15th, 2023 report from CAO titled 2024 Capital and Special Projects Budget. If I can get a mover. Moved by Councillor Grant.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Haslett. Any questions or feedback on Schedule D? We have Councillor Haslett.
So does the Tot Lot Playground need to come out of this?
We have direction to not proceed with that. That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you for that follow-up question, Councillor Haslett. Any other questions, Councillor Swift?
Thank you. I think an amount was left off on the Lazo Greenway project. It says a federal grant has an outstanding provincial grant application for an additional, and it doesn't give an amount.
I believe we have all the grants we're going to get out of this project.
Yeah, we weren't successful with the provincial one, so you can strike that one out. We just got the
Okay.
federal.
Should be a zero.
Darn.
Yeah, additional 0.
Thank you.
End the sentence at application. Other questions or comments on Schedule D? Councillor Haslett.
Sorry, it's been a long day for me. Funds for construction of a pump track. That's $500,000. I know it was back and forth on whether or not it was grant dependent or not. Is that 500,000 being confirmed, or where are we at with that?
Thank you. Yeah, it's always interesting when we're constructing these because some of these projects have their own reports and they have their own direction timeline. So what you're doing when you're approving the schedule is you are approving for expenditure everything within it. However, the caveat is that we understand that there are certain projects that are coming on their own and are getting direction from council on their own. So the Tot Lot Park is an example. This is another example. We are going to be bringing a report to you in December. So yes, technically by approving this, we have the direction from council to spend the funds, but functionally we're bringing a report to you in December 6th, and you will at that point decide whether or not you want to move the project forward. I know it's a little bit confusing, but if we start taking those projects out of these lists, then it gets even more confusing and things get lost as well.
Thank you. One more question. The misting station and water fountain for heat at Highland Park, where is that going and what does it entail?
Thank you. I'll turn that over to Robbie.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're looking to put a drinking fountain and a misting pole adjacent to the pickleball courts. Yeah, misting station. It's just like it's like a pole, like you see them down in Southern California, Arizona.
And I know a big thing with everything we do these days is water consumption. What does a misting station require? Is all the water's sweat out by the pickleballers, or?
Yeah, all the soccer players. Yeah, you just press a button and it turns on. It's like a minimal amount of water.
Thank you.
Good cooling mechanism. Good question, Councillor Hazlitt. There are questions for Schedule D. Councillor Mayer online.
Thanks. It's about the the vehicle replacements. I wanted to check in with staff again to see where we're at with the electrification of fleet vehicles, like if electric vehicles are being considered in those purchases, or again, just checking, would you require a motion from council to consider electric vehicles, or are you already considering them?
I'll turn that over to Director Ashfield.
Yeah, we have what's the name of the enterprise? Fleet Enterprise, who works with the town of Comox in helping us in regards to when to replace and what to replace it with. So we're looking at definitely administration vehicles where they'll have no impact operationally. Those are the easy ones. So that discussion is being had for sure on what makes sense and what vehicles should be an EV or not.
And the other, and to your question, Councillor Mayer, one of the things that we do need to take into consideration when we're looking at electrification of our fleet is our charging capabilities and powers at Public Works. And if we are going to be more seriously considering getting especially some of the larger vehicles that are included in the replacements that we have here electrified, we're going to need capital upgrades to the Public Works yard in order to do that. And we'd need direction from council, I think, to start exploring that in a more serious manner.
Okay, that's good to know. And I do understand, like, electric isn't always the best choice for all vehicles related to the business of local government. So that's not what I'm saying. I was just curious about where we're at with that consideration, and great to know that there's the infrastructure requirements that would have to be considered in the cost benefit analysis too. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments on Schedule D? Okay, thank you. All those in favor of Schedule D? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. So we have no notices of motion. And before I go on, thank you again for all senior leadership and staff for attending our meeting this evening. It is much appreciated. I know it's getting late. We appreciate your time. There are no notices of motion, no correspondence, no late items. We'll go through reports from members of council. Anything you attended that there is information you would like to share to the rest of the group. We will start with Councillor Swift and then Councillor Hazlitt.
I have nothing to report at this time.
I met with North Island College just with respect to how the town and the college can collaborate. There's a few ideas that we're kind of bouncing back and forth, but a little bit more conversation to be had before we kind of bring anything to it.
Perfect, thank you. Councillor Grant and then Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to report except that we can now report that James Warren is now the new CAO of the regional district. And that Councillor Kerr is, you're the vice chair of the board. So there you go. We got lots of elections.
Thanks for those CBRD updates, and congratulations to Councillor Kerr on the vice chair. Councillor Kerr.
Thanks. Yeah, and also we should also congratulate Councillor Will Cole Hamilton from Courtney, who is elected chair of the CBRD board. Just two quick items. First of all, big thank you to the BIA and for everyone involved in the public that attended all of the sessions last week with the downtown economic and downtown revitalization discussions. Lots of great topics, and can't wait to hear more about what's going to come out of it. And also a big congratulations to the Comox Valley Society for Diversity for the first Diwali festival that was held in Courtenay on Sunday night, and it was sold out. And I was planning to go, but was sick myself, so couldn't attend. But from the pictures I saw, it sounded like it was a great event. So great to, in this time with so much going on in the world, nice to celebrate diversity and inclusion in our own community. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Kerr. We'll go online to Councillor Blacklock and then Councillor Mayer.
Yeah, it was great to participate last week in the BIA public engagement sessions as well as the AGM. We've had some turnover on the BIA executive board for the coming year, but Pete Chambers will remain as the president. And today I had the pleasure of attending a workshop or information session online on substance use in the workplace. It's very informative, and I'd just like to remind everyone that we have some upcoming BIA events. The 16th will be a session on the food and beverage industry. Then we have the Mayor's Tree Lighting, of course, coming up on the last Friday in November. Is that the 24th? And also we have the a whiteboard session on visioning the future of the Comox Marina on November 30th down at the Spinnaker building. So that's it from me for this week.
Thanks, Councillor Blacklock. Councillor Mayer.
I don't have anything to report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Also attended the downtown revitalization sessions that the BIA held and continue to hold. They're doing a really great survey process where they look at all the different attributes of our downtown, and it's been a good process. I saw many of you at the Remembrance Day ceremonies this past Saturday at downtown Comox. We finally had a nice sunny day for the parade and the kind of vigil held there. So thank you for those who were able to attend that ceremony. Attended the task force meeting with the leadership on looking for shelter space for this winter, which they've got down a couple of potential spaces that can't be shared yet, but they're still looking for other spaces as 2 to 3 medium-sized shelters for 30 to 40 people in each location are still being looked for. So if you know anyone that has lease space in central locations that would be open to working with the CVRD on a 4 to 5 month lease, that's still a work in progress. Yesterday we had the first, or I guess they said 10 years ago, we did the Métis flag raising for Louis Riel Week, which is being celebrated tomorrow at the Comox Legion tomorrow night. We raised the flag yesterday at Town Hall with Councillor Kerr was there also, and they said they did it once 10 years ago, but it was basically kind of a fresh start on recognizing the Louis Riel Week and the Métis Week. So thanks for that. As Councillor Blacklock mentioned, we have the downtown winter market on Friday, November 24th, and that's the Mayor's Tree Lighting as well, and that's Friday, November 24th. Courtenay has invited us to their Moonlight and Magic and tree lighting starting on Friday, November 17th. So just the week before. I believe that's already in 2 days. So Christmas events are happening. And that's all from myself. And if there are no media questions, any questions from the public? Good. Thank you for coming. And we are going to be going in camera. So if I can get a resolution to exclude the public to go in camera. Moved by Councillor Grant, seconded by Councillor Hazlitt. All those in favor? Okay, so we'll move to go in camera at 6:59. We will take a break. Thank you for everyone in attendance this evening.